All right, well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our discussion with the deputy with our Bigs in Blue mentors. My name is Melissa Bixby, and I am the program director here at Big Brothers Big Sisters of Southwest Idaho. And we're excited today to have two representatives from the Ada County Sheriff's Office who are big brothers in our program. And before we get to their part of the discussion, I wanted to give you a little backstory on the Bigs in Blue and how it came to be here in Idaho. So Bigs in Blue is a national initiative across the United States that many agencies in the Big Brothers Big Sisters world take part in. These programs focus on building relationships between law enforcement and the communities they serve, and it's supported by federal grant money. So here in Idaho, for many years, we have had a partnership with Ada County Sheriff's Office. If you've been to our summer party, you might have seen a sheriff or two flipping pancakes or playing games, or it looks like crawling through the pipes there, being bigs for a day. And this has been pretty exciting for us to have this partnership. They've been part of this event for many years. And Sheriff Bartlett is a huge supporter of ours, and he's on our board of directors. And so because of this existing partnership, it just seemed natural that when the Bigs in Blue opportunity came to be, that we would ask them to be part of it. And with the support of Sheriff Bartlett, we jumped at the chance. And about a year ago, we started our recruitment efforts. We did some great recruitment, and then COVID hit. So we've had a little slow start to things, but we have lots of momentum and lots of ideas. So tonight is our first ever discussion with the deputy. We hope that there may be more to come. But what I want everybody, before we introduce our deputies, I want to introduce Nicole Carr, who is the Community Relations Officer and our liaison to the Sheriff's Office. And she is going to introduce our mentors and talk a little bit about Ada County Sheriff's Office. So Nicole.
Thanks, Melissa. Like she said, I'm the Community Relations Officer here at the Ada County Sheriff's Office. And what that means is my role here is to do community outreach, crime prevention, and education for all of our residents in Ada County. Unincorporated, the city of Star, Eagle, and Kuna are our contract cities. And what that means is those people who live in those cities pay the Sheriff's Office for police services. So our reach is far and wide, and that includes partnering with Big Brothers Big Sisters. Like Melissa said, I'm the liaison between the two agencies to have these people come together for supporting these littles in our community and those matches, finding those people who want to know more about law enforcement and have our law enforcement officers and deputies get more involved in their community in a more proactive way instead of in their routine role in a more that sometimes can be reactive. And so with us tonight, I have Deputy Jeremy Byington, who's one of our patrol deputies, and Deputy Steve Yarnott, and they are both Bigs in the Bigs in Blue program. And so what I'd like Jeremy to do is introduce yourself with your title, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Jeremy Byington, patrol deputy with the Ada County Sheriff's Office. First of all, I apologize for the glitchy video feed. Just pretend it's like one of those old kung fu movies where you'll see my mouth move and no voice, and then you'll hear the voice later. So bear with me. So yeah, I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 16 years now, did 2 years in the jail, and have been out on patrol ever since. I've had different positions within the Patrol Services Bureau, which includes SWAT. I've done SWAT for about 11 years now, and also was on the drone team for about 3 years, and also currently refugee liaison officer with our department.
Thanks. Steve, you're up.
I'm Steve Yarnott. I'm a deputy with the Jail Services Bureau here at Ada County. I've been with Ada County for about 2 years. Prior to that, I'm a refugee from Alaska. I migrated out of the cold down here to where there's some reasonable weather. I spent about 8 years up there working in the Alaska Department of Corrections prisons. Here within Ada County, I've been very fortunate. Even though I've been here a short time, I've been able to join emergency preparedness team, jail training officer, and lots of bright things ahead.
Awesome, great, thank you. Jeremy, before we get too far into it, could you tell us why you decided to become a BIG in the Bigs in Blue program?
What kind of intrigued me was, being out on patrol, you deal with a lot of juveniles on a day-to-day basis, whether they're juveniles beyond control and parents can't handle them, or you deal with children that are with refugee families who may not have a father figure that's raising them, and you just kind of see them going down the wrong path. So I think one thing that attracted me to the Bigs in Blue program was to kind of help to be an influence in some young kid's life, so they don't go down that path, and hopefully they can be successful, and I can be maybe a part of that success in their life.
Awesome. Well, we can see the joy on your face in that photo of you and Zayden at your match meeting, getting your t-shirts there. You're all smiles. And Steve, tell us why you joined Bigs in Blue.
Well, I have several reasons. They all kind of tie into each other. Growing up, I didn't always have that positive male influence in my life to kind of keep me on the straight and narrow, make sure I'm headed down the right path. And quite frankly, a few times just lucky that I continued down the right path. So when I had kids, I decided I was going to be very involved in their life, whether they liked it or not. So I spent a lot of time with them, a lot of time coaching, and through coaching, working with other kids that maybe kind of grew up in the same kind of situation I had, or didn't want to listen to their parents, but coach was fine. I'll listen to coach all day long. So I very much enjoyed that, but my kids are getting a little bit older now. They're 17 and 19, so they don't think they need me at all at this point in time, but certainly my coaching career is over. But I very much got a lot of satisfaction from working with youth. And what better way to do it from a program like this going in the future.
Awesome. And it looks like you guys had a fun outing at the farmstead at the end of last year, you and little Eli. And so with Deputy Byington and Yarnott's experience working here at the Sheriff's Office, Jeremy's in patrol, and so we've asked him to talk about some things safety related, winter driving. Even though it doesn't really feel like winter right now, maybe if you're headed to the mountains, we can give you some tips to keep you safe in the car, and a few other things. And then we're gonna turn it over to Steve, and he's gonna tell us a little bit more about the jail and the management that we have here at the Sheriff's Office. So Jeremy, if you wouldn't mind starting with our safety topics. I'm sorry, if you would actually start with telling us a little bit more about patrol and the responsibilities that you do there. I'm jumping ahead.
No, that's fine. So in patrol, basically, you're assigned a patrol team, and it's broken down into North County Division or South County, or in one of the contract cities, Eagle, Star, or Cuna. In the north and south, it's in the unincorporated Ada County areas outside the city jurisdictions. And so basically, you just on your daily shift, you'll just respond to calls for service, which could include a whole variety of things, where it's a simple theft report or a fraud report, a neighbor dispute, and then it could be something as serious as like a domestic violence call, or maybe an emergency crash with injuries, where maybe you have to go, code 3, which we consider with lights and sirens. And so it could be it's every day is a different day and brings about different problems to tackle. And then you also engage with the community on a daily basis, especially if you're working on the day shift. Not as much on the night shift, deal more with the criminal element on the night shift, unfortunately. But during the day shift, you get a better opportunity to work with the community members and build those relationships, because you get to see them on a daily basis.
And so one of the things that we were talking about is the law that was passed last year, but didn't really go into effect until January 1st. It sounds like the last 6 months of 2020 was an educational period where if our patrol officers saw people on the street driving with their cell phones, in their hands or, up to their ear. We kind of gave them a warning, and now we're at the point where it's become an enforceable law. And so could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, sure. Like you said, it actually went into law July 1st of last year, and then there's a 6-month period where it was just giving warnings only to violators of that. And so it's any electronic device whatsoever, basically, that can send messages, receive messages. Basically, you can't use that if you're operating a motor vehicle, and that includes anything as if you're stopped at a stop sign or a stoplight. You can't be on your phone while you are stopped while on a public roadway. If you pull over to the side of the road and make a phone call or make some text messages, then that's fine, because you're still operating a motor vehicle. It falls under the Idaho Code 49-1401A, which is considered distracted driving. It is a primary violation, so you can get pulled over if a law enforcement officer visually observes it in their presence. It's not a secondary one, like let's say you're not wearing your seatbelt. We can't pull you over just for not wearing your seatbelt. We have to pull you over for some sort of other violation. That's a primary violation, which would be the distracted driving code. Basically, it's a pretty stiff penalty with the penalty and the court costs. The first violation, if you're found guilty, is $131.50. And then the second one, within 3-year time period, is a $206.50 violation. And then the third one, within a 3rd-year time period, would be $356.60. And so you can see how over so many violations, it definitely will hurt the pocketbook, needless to say. So that's probably not a good thing to start getting those violations, because it can affect your driving privileges, whether they get suspended or revoked if there's too many of those violations on your record. There are a couple exceptions, obviously, for first responders and medical personnel and utility contractors. If they're in the use of this device under the scope of their employment, people can still use their phones and not hands-free if they're calling law enforcement or medical personnel to report a fire, crash, a crime, serious road hazard, medical emergency, or hazardous materials emergency. So if you're calling 911 for any of those reasons, then it's an exemption for that. It is separate from careless driving or reckless driving, which falls under the same statute, but it is obviously sent to the courts in a different manner. The device that you're using can still be used for GPS function as long as they aren't manually entering information while operating the vehicle. So if you need to put in a location where you want to go, you got to pull over to the side of the road, input that location, and then when it's activated on the GPS function, then you can go back out on the roadway in a safe manner and continue your travels. So that's basically the gist of it. They are starting to enforce it pretty heavily from different departments across the county and the state. So just be very careful, and probably best to come up with a plan with your young drivers out there to make sure that they don't get caught with any of those violations. Obviously, setting the example as being a parent is the biggest thing. So if they see you on your phone while you're driving, that's probably not setting a good example. So I would say you guys come up with a family plan where you guys hold each other accountable and make sure that you guys are paying attention to what's out in front of you and not what's on an electronic handheld device.
Yeah, the goal is
that's all I got for that.
To keep people safe, not to just issue citations and fees alongside of that. It's really to get the focus on the task at hand. Thanks for covering that. I know there's a lot more to the law, as with any law and statute, but going into winter driving tips, if we could just do a quick just reminder of what to do, what not to do when and if winter does decide to show up this year.
Yeah, I mean, Obviously, we're seeing a lot of influx of out-of-state residents. You know, some from certain states that don't have a lot of inclement weather. You know, such as snow. So the biggest thing is just kind of like on these slides here. Just go through those real quick. Is basically just give yourself extra space between other vehicles if you're on icy, um, snowy covered roads. You know, they're saying here 8 to 10 seconds, but it just depends on the speed of the conditions of the roadway too. If it says 55 miles an hour and there's a sheet of ice on the road, you probably shouldn't be going 55 miles an hour. You probably want to be going a little bit slower so you don't lose control on those slippery surfaces. Don't use cruise control, obviously, because you need to react if you're going to start sliding or something like that. You need to be able to react, and cruise control doesn't have those functions on most vehicles. It always helps, obviously, to drive in lanes that have been recently plowed or been sprayed down by the Ada County Highway District trucks or Idaho Transportation Department trucks, or if they've sprayed down some of the gravel on some of the intersections. That helps to maintain that surface contact with your vehicle on the roadway. Obviously, you don't want to make quick or jerky motions. You don't want to slam on your brakes. It just makes it worse, and you lose control a lot easier. You want to make smooth and precise movements. And like I said, give yourself plenty of room, because that's the biggest thing right there is if you start to slide, then obviously you need enough room to make that stop before you run into something. Obviously, it's always encouraged to carry around an emergency kit in your vehicle. And that includes a lot of these items here on this list. You know, obviously jumper cables are big. A shovel, if you get stuck on the side of the road and need to shovel yourself out. Phone charger, if you need to make phone calls and get emergency vehicles to where you're located. You know, flashlights and batteries, obviously tire chains if you're up in the mountains and it's an area where it's needed to, you know, if you're going through a mountain pass on a highway or an interstate, some of those areas are required to have tire chains. It's always obvious you should have a first aid kit with you, some extra clothing, blankets, stay warm. If you run off the road and don't have power to your engine, it gets cold really quick. So you need to make sure you have some extra blankets and clothing to stay warm until emergency vehicles can come out there and help you out.
Awesome. Thanks for covering those things. With you being out on the road, Jeremy, those are pretty relevant to what you see when the weather gets cold and freezing, and then any time of year with people having distracted driving. We want to keep you and anybody else that's out on the road safe. So thanks for covering those topics. So moving over to Steve's role here at the Sheriff's Office, he's a detention deputy, which is different than a patrol deputy. He's not out in a patrol car and driving around. He's in the jail. And so, Steve, could you tell us what it means to be a detention deputy and some of the things that you do on a daily basis?
Sure. The short answer to that is to keep the facility and anybody in our care in the facility safe. What that means, there's a lot of things that go into that. We have the capacity to hold over 1,200 inmates within our jail. So it's a large city or a small city all on its own, with the same problems you get with any other city. You have incidents to respond to, whether it's a medical emergency or a fight or smoke alarms or any number of things that you have to respond to within the jail as well. We have to make sure that the inmates that are in our care get to the appointments they need. A lot of them need medical care, and sometimes they have outside appointments outside the jail, so we have to transport them there. They have court appointments to get to. Right now, because of COVID, they're not going to the jail, but when that's up and running and they're doing the trials and stuff down at the courthouse, we have buses that will run down to the courthouse. We have deputies that have the commercial driver's license. They drive buses down. They drive like the 9-passenger vans down. They have SUVs. They have any number of types of vehicles that they transport inmates in. One of the biggest things that a jail deputy is responsible for is almost like being a counselor. Nobody comes to jail because they're having a good day. The people that come here and stay here are folks that they have a loved one at home, they have kids at home, they have, you know, sometimes they're just worried about their dog or their pets or somebody checking on their house while they're in jail. So it's fairly frequent that you hear them on the phone and they're talking and they have a tough conversation with someone and you see it really bothers them. And it's very frequent to pull them aside and just check on them, make sure they're doing okay. And they want to talk. They want to let you know this is what's going on in their life, and you can give them some advice and let them know that there's some light at the end of the tunnel there, and you know, get through this and things will be okay. So the counselor aspect is very important as a jail deputy. We have a lot of different things available for inmates within the jail to occupy their time. We have programs if they elect to participate in programs and they want to change something in their life, they have the opportunity to do that. They can go work in our kitchen and learn how to get some culinary skills and maybe get a job in a restaurant when they get out. We have a sewing program that they can participate in, and they sew everything from uniforms to blankets. They do lots of repair on torn stuff here, so we don't have to continually buy new clothing and things like that. So there's some opportunity for them to do some things in here as well, and that stuff's all monitored and watched by deputies and other staff that's here.
And as well as continued education. So if inmates want to obtain a GED, get a diploma while they're here in our care, that's something that we offer as well. We want them to leave better than they came in. We want them to be reintegrated back into the community and have those skills.
We do. And that's one of the important things about being the counselor type is, you know, these are our neighbors. These are the people we'll see at the store. These are the people that'll they'll bring you your food. They're going to help you, you know, you name your business. These are the people that are going to help you do those things. And it can be a very positive interaction for you to see them out in your community and know that they were having a tough time when they were in here. And again, they don't come here because they're having a good day. But it's very positive to see, you know, you had that conversation and they go, hey, Deputy Arnott, remember when we talked about this? Well, my kid's doing really good. And so those are very positive interactions. So, you know, returning them better than when they came in is a very important thing for the agency.
It really is. Can you tell us the difference between jail and prison? Because some people are confused on what our role is with the county jail versus the Idaho Department of Corrections.
Sure, there are, in the grand scheme of things, it's, you know, it's where this individual's living is kind of how everybody looks at it, and they see it as one and the same. That's not the case. Most of the people who are in Ada County Jail are here for a very short period of time, usually until they go through a court process or they're able to bond out and then continue their court process out at home. So most of them aren't here for very long. They're in here, they go to court, and off they go. Once they go through the court process and they're sentenced, if they're sentenced to a year or more, they will go out to the Idaho Department of Corrections. The Idaho Department of Corrections is run by the state of Idaho. We really don't have a whole lot to do with that other than assisting from time to time from transporting people back and forth. Typically, if they're sentenced to less than a year and they don't have any special programs that they have to take out at the prison, they'll stay here at the county jail, they'll serve their sentence, and then they'll release from here. So there are some other differences. They're allowed to have, because it's a longer term facility out at the prisons, they're allowed to have more property and more things like that. And that's all designed for the fact that they're going to be there for a longer period of time.
Thank you, Steve. Melissa, I'm going to turn it over to you to see if we have any questions that have come in.
All right. Well, thanks, Steve and Jeremy, for sharing parts of your job and what you do to help our community. We do have a couple of questions. One that I think we're all interested in is, what have you done with your littles since being matched? And what's brought smiles to your faces as you've done those? We'll start with Jeremy.
Well, I just got paired with mine just like maybe 2 months ago. His name is Zayden, 9-year-old. he's got a lot of energy. And so what we've done so far is, well, we tried to do a couple things, but COVID kind of put a roll into things and kind of delayed some things for us. But once we finally were able to meet up and go do some activities, we went to the Discovery Center and went and checked out the King Tut exhibit, which was pretty awesome. Then we've also just got done. I took him on a tour of the sheriff's office, which was, in his mind, probably one of the favorite things that he's done ever. He was even able to meet the sheriff himself and get a special challenge coin from the sheriff. So I think he will cherish that moment probably for the rest of his life, be a very positive influence for him. Now he wants to be a cop as the number 2 career in his life. His first passion obviously is playing the NFL. So we got to get him practicing a little bit to get him ready for that big endeavor. But the funniest thing is everybody that saw him compared him to Patrick Mahomes because of his haircut. So he kind of has a Patrick Mahomes style haircut, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, curly hair, and I think it looks evidence of kind of shaved on both sides, and yeah. But what a treat for him to visit the sheriff's office. I bet any little kid would have enjoyed that. So what a treat for him.
Yeah, and even Nicole hooked him up with a swag bag, so he has a lot of cool things to enjoy.
Swag bags. What about you, Steve? What have you done with your little?
Well, it sounds like there's a tour of the sheriff's office in our near future.
I think so.
My little's name is Eli, and I've had such a great time with him. I've been lucky if I had him through the majority of the summer, where we were able to get outside and do a lot of things, even though with the COVID restrictions, that actually helped because we're outdoors. He's hard to keep up with, but I manage. And we've done all kinds of things. We've walked on the green belt. We went out to Farmstead. We've hiked Table Rock. I found a list of the top 10 parks in the Treasure Valley. He's 8 years old. Top 10 parks in the Treasure Valley, and we're working our way through those. I haven't played on a park, and he makes me play on all the stuff. But we've gone to all the different parks that we can at this point. I'm meeting in here later this week, and we have a mean game of kickball apparently that we're going to play. So he doesn't mind being outside and doing those kind of things. A recent appointment we played video games and had pizza, that was kind of fun. It was fun to watch how excited he was for that. So we very much enjoy the outdoor stuff and getting going, and we're looking forward to summer so we can do a whole lot more.
It sounds like he's allowing your inner kid to show up. And
very much.
How are you on the monkey bars now that you're an adult?
Well, they're a lot easier now that I'm an adult because my feet touch the ground.
Exactly. You're tall enough, right?
He thinks it's cheating, but I don't think so. I think it's just using stuff to my advantage.
Yes, exactly. Using your resources, right? Oh, well, thanks for sharing those. And we'll end. I have 2 more questions. The first one is, what's the best part of your job? So we'll go back to Jeremy.
Okay, well, the best part of my job, besides doing all the fun SWAT stuff, going out and shooting guns and getting paid to do it, I think just interaction with people, just you go out there and sometimes you run into the same people, but you meet new people all the time, and you enjoy how well this community supports you. I mean, we get people that drive up to us on a daily basis and say, thank you for your service. People give us treats at our substations and refreshments and everything else. And we're just so blessed in what a great community we live in, because the people here actually thank us for what we do and what our job is, and how tough it may be in this time of what's going on in the world and the nation, so I'm just so honored to be able to still live in a community that respects law enforcement, and there's that great relationship.
Absolutely. And Boise's a Boise in the Treasure Valley is a pretty neat place to live. What about you, Steve? What's the best part of your job?
The best part of my job really falls in line with, the mission statement of the Ada County Sheriff's Office is make safer places for you to live, work, and play. And I'm doing my part with that to try to make sure these guys leave here, men and women leave here in better shape than when they came in. I've never had a negative experience out in the public with someone who's been incarcerated in the 10 years I've been doing this. Never had a negative experience running into somebody. Some of them don't want to talk, and then some of them want to come up and introduce you to their family. Look, these are the kids I was telling you about, or look how good I'm doing, and look at this, and this is my wife, and I'm doing this, and I have a job. And I very much enjoy fulfilling my role of making it a safer place to live, work, and play.
It sounds like it would be pretty neat to meet up with them after the fact in the community and seeing how they're doing. Well, thanks guys for sharing that. And my last question, I don't know, it might be for Nicole, it might be for Jeremy or Steve, but can you just explain a little bit of how Ada County Sheriff's Office is different from the other law enforcement agencies that we have in the Valley? Because I know sometimes there's confusion with that, just to the general citizen out there.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take that one. The Sheriff's Office is unique in the fact that it's an office and not a department. An office means that the sheriff is an elected official. He is voted in by the people of the county, whereas the police department is appointed, their chief is appointed by the mayor and city council. And so every 4 years, the sheriff needs to be reelected, and he just was in November, and we all just took our oath of office at the beginning of the month. We had to do that virtually. There's a video on our social media pages if you'd like to see that. Every time the sheriff is reelected, we have to do that oath of office, and it reminds us about the good work that we're doing here. And part of that is working with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and we are the only law enforcement agency that is part of this Bigs in Blue program here in the Treasure Valley, and we wear that with a lot of pride. The Sheriff's Office reaches far and wide. We in addition to operating the jail, as Steve was talking about, we patrol the unincorporated areas of the county. So if you live in Ada County and you're not part of one of those cities, you're going to see our sheriff's deputies out patrolling your neighborhoods. And that's what Jeremy does out in South County. We have our contract cities of Eagle, Star, and Kuna, as I mentioned before. We also issue driver's license for residents in Ada County. So it's a little bit unique in some other states. All of that is under one umbrella, one roof. It's a one-stop shop where the state takes care of driver's license and vehicle licensing. Here, the sheriff is responsible for issuing driver's license. So over on Benjamin near the mall, we have a driver's license office, and we are expanding with a second campus here, hopefully soon. I think we've purchased the land and we're trying to build so that we can offer that service to more residents in a more timely fashion and more efficient way. And then not lastly, most importantly, I would say, we manage and staff the dispatch center. So anytime a resident in Ada County dials 911, that phone call is answered by an Ada County Sheriff's Office dispatcher. The only exception is if you are on or near the interstate, your call may be routed to the Idaho State Police, and they have their own dispatch. So whether you live in a city, Boise, Meridian, Kuna, Star, Eagle, any of those I mentioned before, or in the unincorporated county, your call is going to be answered by one of our dispatchers. Not all dispatchers are created, dispatch centers, I should say, are created equal. Our dispatchers are emergency medical dispatchers, which means they can give medical instructions right over the phone. So they can give CPR instructions, they can deliver a baby, by giving those instructions over the phone until the paramedics or the fire department arrives. And so when you call, that service offered by the Sheriff's Office is just above and beyond a lot of other centers where they would maybe need to dial in the fire department and have that call transferred in order to get that help that's needed. And so our dispatch center is located out in Meridian. They got a brand new facility about 3 years ago. And it's a pretty awesome place. When it's safe to come back, we'd love to invite you all in for a tour.
That would be great. That would be a fun thing for our bigs and littles, and especially those part of the program. So thank you, Nicole. Well, that's all the questions that we have for tonight, and we're a little over time. So I want to thank everybody for being part of this first discussion with the deputy, and appreciate your time as bigs. We know that our littles are very appreciative as well of your time and energy that you give. And it sounds like both of you have very energetic little brothers, so energy in so many different ways. So thank you so much for being part of this tonight. We really appreciate it, and we'll see everybody next time. Bye.